Hello and welcome to this episode of Scott Schilling Speaks, joined by a great friend here today. I mean, I could sit and talk accolades all day, and then we'd never hear from him. This is a great friend, an amazing man, Mr. Tom Chenault. Thanks for joining me here.
Scott Schilling, how are you doing, man? You winning?
Absolutely winning. Now that you're here, are you kidding me?
I'll never forget the first time I ever saw you speak. You mesmerized the room. You were a keynote at the ANMP, and I thought, this guy's too good to be true. So I'm standing out in the lobby, and in comes Bob Bodine, who's the most powerful guy in the National Football League. And he's a little suspicious about the whole deal that I've invited him over. And all of a sudden he saw Scott Schilling, and he goes, Scott Schilling's here? I go, yeah, he's like the keynote. And he said, this place has got credibility. We got to go talk to him. He's the top of the list. I can't believe you even got him. And that's how the world speaks about you behind your back.
Well, I appreciate that. That's good.
True story.
That's good to know. Bob's just a amazing human being. Not hard to believe it. Another friend of yours, because you know everybody, don't you, Tom?
I think I know a fair share, and I remember them, which is even more powerful because nobody does that.
Yeah, and that's what certainly appreciate you joining me here on the show. And obviously you're one of the icons in the direct sales industry, and just honored to call you friend from all that. But also you got this little organization run by your son called Contact. Your head's in.
I can never remember what it's called, but I think it's called Contact Mapping, and it is a system to map your contacts. So it's pretty easy to remember.
Oh, there, see, you moved. Now I can see the sign behind you.
Did I accidentally place some? I'll be darned. There we go. Sorry. Yeah.
The shameless plug is there. No, so again, you are one of the icons of the direct sales industry, and a big part of that, though, is because of your relationship ability. You and I have had this conversation before. In our era, we actually remembered a lot of the information ourselves. We were kind of trained up that way, but not so much anymore. And so now there are tools and there are apps available, right?
Well,
like contact mapping.
In the old days, I used to run a restaurant. The 75,000 people a month would come through the doors. And we had 103 employees under the age of 18. And I was like 20, 21. And we were the most popular restaurant in Colorado, believe it or not. We were right next door to the mortuary, and the average age of our customers was about 75. So they would eat the mashed potatoes, the chicken noodle soup, and then go next door and ultimately die in a hurry. So the owner of the mortuary, Mr. Drinkwine, it was horrible because he'd come over every day with business cards and hand them to the oldest people in the place. And it was like, holy cow, that's like the Grim Reaper coming. But anyway, we figured out in a hurry how to keep them coming back. And that was, here comes these parties. And it was grandmother, grandfather, son, daughter, 5 grandkids. And we figured out the person least likely to get a compliment, Scott. And we complimented the least likely. And usually it was the grandmother or grandfather they'd just gotten their hair done with all that hairspray, or they had the earrings. And we would compliment them on it justifiably because it was beautiful, what they loved most about themselves. But most importantly, we would write it down. And when they came in next Sunday, we would remember them. And that had them coming back forever. And that was the success of that restaurant, was the fact that we remembered better than anybody else. The food wasn't good. Nothing was good, except the fact that we were the best. And we had a little Dewey Decimal System. So I'm an alcoholic. I don't know if I told you that. So I haven't had a drink in 33 years, Scott.
I saw that the other day. That's why I wanted to get into that as well.
It's crazy, but I'm like this horrible employee, like this drunken restaurant manager. So they finally fired me. And my dad said, Tom, you're an alcoholic. You got to sell something to rich people. And I said, what should I sell? He says, I don't know, figure it out. So my name is Chenault, which is a very famous aviation name from World War II. So I just went out to the airport and became a drunken airplane salesman, which is even worse. So I was an airplane salesman for years, and I set every record, and they go, well, how'd you get all these clients? And I go, from this Dewey Decimal System and from the restaurant. So I just grabbed the rich clients, asked them who they knew that bought airplanes, and I used them to get in the office and I sold them. So then I drank myself out of the airplane business after many near fatal crashes, and went from there to being a stockbroker, and took the list from the restaurant business, took the list from the airplane business, moved it into the brokerage business, and same outcome. I was unbelievably successful. In 1988, my income was $800,000. And I went, and in January, I finally figured out, I sobered up in 1988. And in January, when I finally was sober enough to figure out where I was financially, even though I'd made 800 grand, 877,000 to be exact, I'd spent $1.1 million. So I was still broke. So in 1989, I made $30,000, and I was flat broke and absolutely without hope. And God's great plan for my life came into focus. You're sober now, Tom. You've got to do something to change the world and help people stay sober. You stay sober, help alcoholics. I'll help you make a living. And I ended up in the world of direct sales, and the rest is history.
I mean, you got to love the story, and probably not. I'm sure you don't love all those times and some of the stuff that's so painful, and so. But it is extremely powerful. Well,
Yeah.
I started in the insurance business way back when, and we had the one card system, right? And the
Yeah.
one card system, very similar, right? You would write things down, and then you would file it. If you were going to call them 30 days from now, you would actually
Yeah.
pull out the card and review the card, and then you would have something in common with them right there. Isn't it amazing that some of the old techniques, right? The original techniques are the same today as they were way back when. The difference is how we execute them. And
Nothing has changed. Nothing. Nothing's changed.
yeah, that's true.
What's so crazy. And we
Well,
go ahead.
people still like to be complimented, right? People still like to have nice things said about them.
That part's, yeah, that's what hasn't changed. So you and I went from there to a Rolodex with these things called business cards. And we went from the Rolodex all of a sudden to gold mine to act. That, these things, they were actually pretty good, but then the really smart people kept adding all this other stuff to those. So the next thing we went to was what? Excel spreadsheets, all that stuff, and the party's over. And so here we are today, but nothing's ever in your palm. It's always someplace else. We just talked to a guy that I think guy named Tony Geary down in Texas. He's got 38,000 contacts in 3 boxes.
Yep.
So whenever he goes to a meeting, he looks like a pack mule. Well, I've got the same 37,000 people right here in the palm of my hand, called contactmapping.com.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I do know Tony. Tony's a fabulous speaker and trainer and mentor to so many great masterminds and everything he does. But it's amazing. Like I say, we learned to write the information down. Part of that writing that information down was that kinesthetic, taking that information and helping go into our brain. But people stopped teaching the importance of relationships and what a relationship was really made of. And that's
Right.
what I think you're doing so well with contact mapping. First of all, it's having the information in your hand when you need it. That's important. But then it's making that information dance, isn't it?
Yeah, and the name of the game is he or she who. What you love most about me, Scott, is what I remember about you. And it goes both directions. That's every human being. I just took a brand new guy from Russia, to the terrible restaurant right next door. Why? Because they recognize me. They know exactly what I want. They're going to walk up. They're going to hug me. They're going to say, "Hello, Tom. I'm going to feel good." And he's not even going to notice the mice. And that's the most beautiful part about the whole deal, because I just want to be remembered. I'm 70 years old and I'm obsessed with being remembered. And that's all of us. And so my whole philosophy is, when's your wife's birthday?
August 24th.
On August 24th, you got to remember to follow your wife up on her birthday. No, you don't. You remember it. You don't
Yes.
follow up your wife, you remember. We don't like following up, and we don't like being followed up on. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. What is the acronym for follow up? FU. That's how it shows up for everybody. That's exactly right. And so that's the whole story, I promise you. So we don't need that. We want to be remembered. So my whole thing is remember, 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 ask. So yesterday morning I get up, I don't have any idea how this happened. I went to bed, my contact mapping app on Saturday night says 0 follow-ups to do. Woke up Sunday morning, I had 106. Richard Brook called me from Washington, D.C., because he was in that time zone, and to say good morning to me. He goes, "What's it going to be like today?" I said, I got to follow up 106 people. He goes, "You going to be able to do it?" I go, "Yeah, if you hold me accountable," because there's a statistic out there that if you have a buddy, 65% of the things you say you're going to do, you do. If you've got a community, 95% of the things you say you're going to do, you do. So every time I have something that's bigger than me, I make sure I have a compadre in the game to hold me accountable, so I don't start listening to this guy on my shoulder, because this guy's an idiot. I take him everywhere I go, and he's going to talk me into gluten. He's going to talk me into sugar, and he's going to talk me into doing it tomorrow. And I don't like this guy. I brought him with me today, but I don't like him.
Isn't it amazing how he tends to follow you around almost everywhere?
Everywhere.
Something like that. Well, I mean, I think that's so important. I was doing a podcast in Brazil this morning, and the guy said, what becomes really important when you're listening to people and creating relationships? And I said, one of the things I teach all the time is always tell the second story. And he says, what do you mean by that? And I said, their story is the most important. Let them tell theirs first.
Wow.
Always tell the second story. And so the point is that people want to hear themselves speak. People want to, as you say, they want to be remembered. I actually love that. I think that's a campaign that needs to come out. And I'm very serious about that. I'm thinking my marketing brain was kicking in when you were saying that everybody loves to be remembered. Being remembered, I can almost see the campaign there. Sorry, I'm being creative and trying to talk at the same time, but I love the fact of that is the being remembered and being able to have that conversation. Again, one of the ways to do that, have that second story so that you've now paid attention, you've listened, you've done something. The other side of it is you can now adapt the details of your story into their world, which again tightens that relationship very quickly.
So the guy from Russia right next door calls me 2 days ago, obviously from Russia. Says I'm in Colorado Springs, which is 1 billion miles away, traffic far away from me. Yeah. So by the time I'm done talking to this guy, I have documented his blood type. I mean, I know everything about this guy. And he said, well, Jiminy Christmas, I need to know more about you. I said, well, good, come and see me. This morning, he showed up at my house at 10 o'clock this morning.
Wow.
Drove all the way from there he says, we just had such a beautiful conversation. I didn't have the heart to ask him why he liked the conversation so well. But the conversation was he did all the talking. All I did was wrote great questions, ask him great questions. I wrote down the great answer to the great questions. And then I completely reminded him that I remembered all down the line. And at the end of the day, he hopped on his horse and drove for 2 hours to come and see me this morning. And that's an enrollment conversation. That's not a sales conversation.
Right.
That's what we need to learn, is how to make people feel the BLTSs. And I'm going to tell you, if you walk into the grocery store or a shoe store or something like that, you buy a pair of shoes, you hand them the money, that's a sale. BLTs are different. Enrollment is different. So the whole thing for me is having the BLTs with people, and they need to feel like they belong. They need to feel like I love them. They need to feel like they can trust me, and they need to feel safe with me. And if all 4 of those BLTs are present, They aren't going to ask you the price. They aren't going to ask you whether it's got a guarantee. They're going to just join you in whatever you're doing because they've got that whole 100% feeling. And I want you to think about your life. You've got about 10 guys like that will do. Maybe somebody like you has 100. I've got about 5. So I figured you had twice as many as me. But at the end of the day, they will do anything with me. No questions asked. So I'm raising a bunch of money for contact mapping a couple of months ago. I called my 10 richest friends who I've done all these deals with forever. And I said, give me X amount of money. 8 out of 10 said it's on its way. All they wanted to know was the wiring instructions. 2 of them told me no. And I was freaking out. They had the money, they had the desire, they had everything, and they told me no. So one of the BLTs was missing. My buddy Gary Keogh, I called him on the phone. And I said, look, I don't care if you invest the money. I don't, but I need to know why you told me no. In 1987, there was a machine out there called a SolaFlex machine. And all of us, do you remember it?
I do.
Everybody wanted one. And they cost a lot of money. And I didn't have the money. I was a drunk. And so Gary Keogh gave me his credit card to buy a SolaFlex machine with the promise I'd pay him back one of these days. 2021, Gary Keogh had not forgot that $1,800 I didn't give him. And he said, that was the reason. I can't trust you, Tom. We cleaned it up, party on. You have to get complete with people.
I absolutely true. You know, people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So there's no doubt about that fact. Trust is such a, it's hard to earn and easy to lose.
Yeah.
You know? Absolutely, for sure. But I mean, I love the story. I love the go through the BLTS again.
BLTs are, you have to belong in your tribe. They have to know you love them. They have to know they can trust you, and they have to know that they're safe. And if any one of those are missing, they're going to sign up with you just to get you to leave, but they're not going to be enrolled.
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference between selling or transacting a sell and the enrollment, because the enrollment was really into the vision of something much bigger and greater than just that conversation. You agree with that?
I don't know if I do or not. It's easier to prove it to you. So
Okay.
I'm trying not to give you my credit card number, but if you look at the screen underneath Thomas V. Chenault,
Yeah.
it says Mo and Associates.
Right.
And most people say, what does Mo mean? And they think back to the Three Stooges, Mo, Curly, and Larry. I go, it's not that. Mo means integrity. People go, what does that mean? I go, I don't sell things. I enroll people into a possibility greater than them. So Mo stands for Masters of Enrollment. Dun, da, da. So
Nice.
who I am is Masters of Enrollment, and my company is Mo and Associates. And for those of you that are wondering how well this whole thing was scripted, that came right off of the top of Scott Schilling's head. We did not talk about this in advance. It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah, we don't. That's why I love doing the show the way I do it, because I don't prepare anything in particular. I want them to go wherever it goes, because that's what's supposed to be heard that day.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I
God's
love
got it.
that though, about enrollment, because it truly is, again, I said vision, you said bigger than you. And I think that's where they fit together. The reality is people love to join or enroll in something that goes far beyond themselves.
Yeah.
I see that with you. We've been at live events out on the road, and all of a sudden you saying, wait a second, where is the AA meeting in this town? What time is it at? And who wants to go with me?
Yeah.
And I mean, I congratulate you for that. Not that you need my congratulations, but I've watched it in actions multiple times now.
Everywhere I go.
It just impresses the heck out of me every time.
Well, if I walk into a town and there's a beautiful girl, her name's 362436, what am I going to do? Look at me. The first thing that's going to go through an alcoholic's head is she's got to drink me up to a 10. I better have one drink. So everywhere I go, every town, I swear, because I know me, after 33 years of sobriety, I know that if I put it out in that town that I'm going to an AA meeting, somebody's going to go with me. And if by some stupid reason I am dumb enough to pick up that drink, they're going to take it out of my hand and I'm going to take it out of their hand. It's exactly what we talked about earlier. Got a sponsor in AA, and then I've got a group to keep me on, and that creates 95% success, which is where I'm standing right now. I haven't had a drink in 33 years.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. That's awesome. And again, I've seen it in action. My gut tells me you've probably saved a person or two as well in that situation, invited them along with you, that it was just
Kind of an
at the
interesting
right time.
statement.
Well,
If I take credit for that and don't give it to God,
well, no, I mean,
I also have to take credit for them if they drink and go die. So rather than any of that, I just kind of like, I act like the usher, the best man at the wedding, and let the bridegroom be the bridegroom, and my job's just to serve. So that way I don't get into any goofy stuff. Because I start, here's the deal. People ask me why I go to an AA meeting every day of my life. And I go, and I went today. And the reason I go is to help the still suffering alcoholic, which you alluded to. But the second reason I go is so I can consistently remember that I'm not half as hip, slick, and cool as my paycheck and success are trying to tell me that I am. Because I listen to this guy. I've got an ego just like everybody. It's insanity. I got to stay away from him.
yeah, and he keeps on following you. That's the
problem.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think this just happened with us about a month ago or so. You came into Dallas and you put it out that you were here and said, hey, come join me. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I came to join you, and 19 other friends were
yeah.
It was absolutely phenomenal.
A flash party, a flash breakfast.
It was a flash breakfast. And
well,
it was
who wants to go to breakfast alone? And when you're on the road, you're alone. And instead of do that, I throw it up on social media. I'm going to be there. I'm buying breakfast, and I find out where the best breakfast place is. And a party always happens. And I get to hear new stories and meet new people. I heard an interesting quote the other day from Ben Hardy. He wrote the book, which is phenomenal, called Who, Not How. All of you have to get his book.
Yep.
But in the first chapter, I about swallowed my cigar, because he quoted somebody else that said that addiction is the opposite of true human connection. And I truly believe that. And I think we're all addicted to something. They say that normal people take problems straight to God, which I will buy. However, I also believe I've never met a normal person. Everybody has a detour, whether it's porn, whether it's the refrigerator, whether it's working out, sugar, gluten. Everybody's got that diversion between here and God, unless you are completely so connected to God and to other human beings that you go straight there. And I swear to you, I don't know many people in that boat, Scott.
No, I would agree with you for sure. We all have our challenges that hit us in the face every once in a while, for sure. So I know that you've got to get to another call here fairly quickly. Leave everybody with some Tom Chenault wisdom.
All right, here's my biggest tip. Stop looking at people like prospects. Look at them like human beings. Figure out a way to have people, anybody you meet, Zoom, phone call, here, there, anywhere, feel better about having met you than when they got there. So that means you can't be throwing an agenda at them. You have got to live for, instead of the transaction, you've got to live it for the transformation. And in my world of alcoholics and drug addicts, if I hit anybody with a business pitch early in sobriety, I'm just pushing them off the cliff and they're going to die. So I have got to love like crazy, then love more, always. I've got to fire my brain, hire my heart, always. And that's my wisdom to all of you, is be Scott Schilling. When I heard how much money he had made from the back of the room over his career, the tens of millions of dollars, I was in awe, and I knew he was going to walk in the room 11 feet tall. When I saw a guy walk in there named Scott Schilling, whose heart was bigger than that bankroll, I about fainted because it reinforced one more time to me that relationships, human connections mean everything. And there's just nothing, and you know this, Scott, that I wouldn't do for you. And my most valuable thing that I can give you, which is for you anytime, anywhere, is access to my vast collection of people in my life that can do you more good than I could ever do in a million years. But you've got, it's yours. My Rolodex is yours. And if you can all get rid of that scarcity mentality and give far more than you get, you're going to win every time, right?
Absolutely.
Look at Sean Murphy.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking today about our start.
Yeah.
Because we both got bamboozled into putting a lot of money into that seminar that didn't work out. And so I was down $10,000. You guys lost a lot of money. It would have been easy for everybody to be like not getting along so well, but instead it solidified us. And that's what I love, because the deep water became the only water and we came out of it good friends. And if it would have been beautiful, our egos probably would have just we wouldn't have gotten this close. That's what's so beautiful about troubled times. I live for troubled times because I get to see the real person underneath it.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Honored to call you friend. For sure.
Love you, man.
Love you too, brother. Thanks for joining us here on Scott Schilling Speaks. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Thanks, Tom Chenault.
You're the greatest.
God bless. Bye-bye.